Hello everybody, so this is a second video on the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard story. We're using the story as a case study at the moment and to showcase a little bit of astrology, a little bit of tarot, and if I have time I'll also look into the past lives aspect of these two because I saw some interesting things one day when I was looking, okay? So today we're going to look at the chart of Johnny Depp. And I have the chart here in front of me on my tablet. Sorry for this very basic setup that I have going on at the moment. But I think that we can still manage. Okay, so this is Johnny Depp's chart. I'm just zooming out a second so that you can see it. Okay. And you will see that Johnny Depp is a Leo rising. He has the sun in Gemini, and he has the midheaven in Taurus, okay? Now, he is a Leo rising, so when he talks to people in his day-to-day life, he comes across as somebody that has quite dramatic flair. And because the sun is in Gemini in the 11th house, you can see it up there, number 11 with the sun in there. He probably comes across also as quite friendly because the 11th house is the house of friends and groups. It's also the house of future goals. But in terms of the, of his interaction with people, it will come across as like a very friendly, he will have a very friendly disposition, okay? Now, we will see that he has a Taurus midheaven, MC means midheaven. Taurus is a sign that is ruled by Venus, and Venus is also in the 10th house. So you will see where the MC is. If you look down, it says number 10. So that's the 10th house of his chart. And the Venus that rules Taurus is also in that slice of the chart, okay? The 10th house is all about a person's career. And the midheaven is the way in which we interact with the world from the point of view of our career. So somebody that is an actor who is working with the public through movies and who is seen by a lot of people will interact with the world through their midheaven, which is in Taurus, and it's ruled by Venus, with Venus also in the house of career. This means that he has a very Venus appearance to the world through his work, which is about his looks, which is about his beauty, and he will also interact with the world through a very Venusian disposition, which is kind of soft in some ways, right? Okay, so he will come, there will be a softness in the way in which he looks to the world through his public persona and his work persona, okay? Now, some of the things that are interesting about this chart, I mean, we could do a whole chart reading for him, but I don't think that is that interesting. So I would like to just talk about the parts of his chart to speak to some of the things that are going on with him right now, okay? And to some of the things that are being said about him or have been said about him, and some of the significators that are going on in his chart that show some of those things. So the most important thing is this Uranus, Mars, Pluto that we see here. I'm zooming into it. It's just under the ascendant. You have Uranus, it's that symbol that looks like a TV antenna, is Mars, and then Pluto is the big P underneath there. So all these planets are conjunct together, okay? Uranus and Pluto were conjunct together all the way through the 60s, so you have a generation of people that were born between 1962 and 1969 that have a Uranus-Pluto conjunction. And of those, every 2 years, when Mars is in Virgo, there would also be a batch of those people that would have a Uranus-Mars-Pluto conjunction as well, okay? Now, what does that mean? That means that there are 3 planets that are working together that have a very specific energy when they are combined, okay? And so let's look at each planet first by themselves, and then we can get a feel for what they would do when they all combine together. So Uranus is all about abrupt change, sudden change, about breaking the mold, about doing things differently, about breaking away from tradition, about in some ways it's kind of like a choppy energy. It has a lightning bolt kind of energy. It's a fast energy, and it expresses itself in bursts. But the purpose of the Uranian energy is to break the old and create the new. It's about breaking stuff apart so that something can be born, okay? So it's about innovation. It rules technology as well, all right? Because technology is very often about innovation too. Now, Pluto is also a transformation planet, but Pluto is something that likes to explode the shadow, okay? So it's a transformation path through the shadow. It is also about intensity. It's about the depth. Pluto rules Scorpio. So for people that are familiar with the Scorpio energy, you will get an idea what Pluto is all about. So it's about in transformation, but it's a very death and rebirth kind of transformation that happens through a journey into the underworld, okay? So if you imagine that you're putting together 2 transformation planets, one that is a break everything apart, break and send lightning bolts into things, and another one that is a transformation through the depth and the journey into the underworld and the death and rebirth process and so on. You can understand that the Uranus-Pluto conjunction, when it was happening, pretty much it was the energy of the 60s, okay, which there was all sorts of things going on in the 60s about change and transformation. And in a person's chart, when a person has this in the chart, if it plugs into any of their personal planets, it will force the person to really work on whatever personal planet they are aspecting, okay? Now, in the case of Johnny Depp, the personal planet, it aspects more than one personal planet, but it is conjunct with Mars. So one of the things that can happen when Pluto and Uranus and Mars are all together is you can have explosive bursts of anger, okay? You can have a very deep and transformative sexuality, okay? You can have an extremely high drive. You can have an extremely high drive in the world to create and transform and and to continue to create and transform. It's in some ways, Pluto, Uranus, Mars is a very restless, transformational energy that is constantly in action in the chart, okay? So definitely this is an energy that has been very positive for him in terms of his work and creativity, okay? But it is also the energy that has made him go around the house and slam the doors on the cabinets, and that would also give him an explosive temper every now and then. If you can see, however, that these 3 planets are also in a square with Mercury, so definitely that temper would express itself verbally. Sorry, my tablet just timed out. A screensaver. Okay, so we're back. So it would definitely express itself verbally. So he would definitely be somebody that can have bursts of anger, that can express through his words, and can also express physically, but it doesn't mean necessarily that he would be physically abusive. It would mean that he would need to channel that energy physically somehow. So, for example, slamming cabinets, okay? Is there a possibility that he may have acted also on this energy in other ways? Absolutely, okay? Now, however, when you see this kind of energy in a chart, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is not able to control their anger or is not able to control their sexuality. But what it does mean is that there is a very intense energy around Mars, which is anger, sexuality, and drive, okay? Now, because it's in a square aspect, it means that it's challenging, okay? So it can be challenging for him to work with this energy. Now, the other thing, let me just see, the other thing that is going on in his chart with regards to his energy, if you see there's a red line that comes out of it and goes to the other side towards Saturn, and Saturn is in the 7th house. Now, the 7th house is the house of marriage. Saturn in the 7th house shows that there is definitely some kind of karma going on with regards to his marriage partner. Now, I know that Johnny Depp has had many kinds of relationships. If I'm not mistaken, he did marry very briefly to somebody very early on in his life, and I don't actually know anything about that, okay? But in his more recent and adult life, the only person that he has married is Amber. Now, in astrology, there is a difference between married relationships and non-married relationships. Non-married relationships are 5th house relationships, while marriage type relationships are 7th house. Because the 7th house is ruled by Libra, that is ruled traditionally by Saturn, and it is about one-to-one bonds that have commitment, okay? And traditional kind of commitment, such as marriage. So here we see that when it comes to marriage, he has a big Saturn in it. Saturn is karma, so he would, if he marries, he will encounter his karma through his marriage. Now, the other thing that we will see here is that Saturn is in opposition to that Mars, Pluto, Uranus. So that means that he will pull in that explosive energy of the Pluto, Mars, Uranus into his marriage, and that the way in which he will pull it in will be through his karma, okay? So looking at this relationship, it would almost seem that the relationship between him and Amber was karmic, and it was pre-planned before he was even born, okay? And that there would be definitely some form of explosive energy in the marriage, okay? Now, the chart doesn't tell you anything about who is the perpetrator and who is not the perpetrator, but it will tell you that there is that energy in the marriage. When he does get married, that energy is going to get pulled in, okay? And in fact, an astrologer may have even advised him not to get married because of that energy that is being pulled in, okay? Now, the other thing that is interesting here is also his moon. Now, he has the moon in Capricorn, as you can see here. It looks like a little moon over there. And if you look at the red line coming out of the moon in Capricorn, it goes to this thing that looks like a 4, that is Jupiter in Aries, okay? So that moon in Capricorn is all about his mom, and it is about also who he would pull in as a partner if he were to pull in a partner that is like his mom. And the moon in Capricorn shows quite a cold mum, or a cold feminine, okay? And which, however, with the line that goes to the Jupiter in Aries, it is a cold feminine that has a tendency towards excesses of an emotional nature, but those excesses would be fiery Aries type Mars-based excesses, so temper tantrums, okay, or just temper outbursts or anger outbursts. So here you're looking at a mom that is cold but has the potential for outbursts of excessive anger, excessive rage, okay? Now, we do know about Johnny Depp's childhood because he's talked about it in during the trial, and he's talked about it in general. So we know that his mum was actually like this. That she was a woman that he describes as being extremely mean, one of the meanest people he's ever known. That's how he described his mom, okay? And that every now and then she would get into fits of anger and would throw stuff around and would, and that she was emotionally and verbally and physically abusive, okay? So when we look again at this Uranus, Mars, Pluto, we can see that that energy was in his life even when he was a child, not because of something that he was doing, but because of the explosions that were coming through his mom, okay? And who knows if that created some anger that he needed to repress, we do not know, okay? But it speaks to the fact that there was this energy around even when he was a child, okay? Now, the moon tells us also about the kind of person that somebody would attract into one's life, via one's past and one's wounds, okay? Especially for a man. So in a man, the moon shows the kind of woman that a man would pull in, that is like his mother, that echoes the wounds that he also had with his mother, okay? And so this kind of cold on the one hand, but also extremely explosive on the other hand, kind of woman is in some ways what some people have described, it kind of matches some of the descriptions that other people have made of Amber Heard, okay? Now, we were not there, so we do not know, but there's a lot of reports about the fact that she was physically abusive to her sister, that every now and then she would go on to tirades, and Johnny Depp also explains that he often wanted to leave because he didn't want to experience big arguments and so on and so on. Okay, so it's kind of interesting that you can see this in the chart. You can see the mother, moon, square, Jupiter in Aries, and you can see also aspects of Amber, okay? So these are some of the interesting things that I was seeing here. I'm just trying to see now if I see anything else that is relevant. Well, one of the things that kind of jumps at me is all of the yellow lines. In this astrology chart service that I am using, that is from astro.com, the yellow lines are the quintiles and biquintiles. They're all of the harmonic aspect, fifth harmonic aspects, okay? A lot of people don't even include them. I always include them because they're interesting. Now, the fifth harmonic aspects are all about talent, creativity, special qualities that somebody has. So you will often see a few quintile aspects or biquintile aspects or fifth harmonic aspects in the charts of talented people, okay? And Can you see how many there are here for Johnny Depp? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I can just see off the top of my head. Now, that's rare. Most people don't have any of these yellow lines. Okay. But he has 5 of them. Okay. So that shows that he came in with a chart that predisposed him to being very talented, and that he would be able to draw onto many aspects of his personality to create art and to be the person that we know him as. Okay. And even that Mars, Pluto, Uranus, which that is this thing over here. If you notice, even from here, we can see many yellow lines going out of those planets as well, which means that he was able to harness a lot of that energy, and he was able to use it creatively, and in part because of these quintile and biquintile aspects. Okay. Then let me see. Another interesting thing, this is nothing to do with the trial, but just from an astrology point of view, is this Sun-Neptune aspect that is part of that fifth harmonic series. Okay. And very often you will see connections between the Sun and the Neptune of actors. And that is because Neptune is able to create an illusion, and it's able to dissolve at the same time. So actors need to be able to dissolve their Sun, which is their self, who they are, and they need to be able to project an illusion onto that is somebody else's self. Okay, somebody else. They need to be able to become somebody else. And so it's kind of interesting to see here how he has a Sun, Neptune, fifth harmonic aspect that allows him to do that. Okay, and it allows him to do that very well. Okay, now if he had a Sun square Neptune, that is usually where the Neptune becomes problematic and where you end up with a liar. Okay, the squares to Neptune are often ones, especially Sun square Neptune, or Sun square the Moon, Neptune square the Moon and Neptune square Mercury. Okay, those often are aspects where somebody becomes capable of a lot of deception. He doesn't really have that. Okay, he has the Neptune in a very creative aspect to his Sun, but his Neptune is not in a very bad relationship with some of the planets that would signify lies in a more traditional sense. Okay. Now, what you also can see here is another thing here that is, sorry about this very basic setup I have here. The Sun over here in a square to Chiron. Okay. And Chiron is pain, wounds. This is the person that has wounds. This is the person that has experienced pain. This is the person that also came in with his own pain from past lives. Okay. Very often, Chiron is wounds that do not heal, that are always with you. It doesn't mean that you're crippled by them, but it means that they kind of stay with you. Okay. And this Chiron is in the 8th house, which is one of the deep houses of the psyche. Okay. So he has, literally wrestled with demons in his psyche that are based in pain. Okay. Now let's see. And also this usually has to do with the father. Okay, so some of these wounds would come from his father or his father line. And I know that he was very disappointed with his father leaving. That was not something that would have created a... it's usually... his father left when he was 15. So this would not have been a wound that would have affected him as badly as a wound in his early childhood. So we could have a wound to the self that literally comes in from past lives or from some things in his early childhood that he has not talked about or he does not remember. Okay. And I'm looking and I'm seeing that this video is getting rather long. I didn't realize. So I think that's it for the moment on Johnny Depp. And so we will close this here for now, and tomorrow, if I have time, I will do the one for Amber, and then we will look at the combination of these two charts together to see how these two people set each other off. Okay? All right, so I hope you enjoyed this, and that would be all for now, and until the next time.